Good afternoon. So the HREF, which is the ensemble model we usually look at, is running rather slow today, and so it has only loaded a few hours so far of our current forecast period. So we're gonna have to try something a little new if we want to be on schedule instead of releasing this like an hour and a half late. So we will take a look at this, which shows our current or shows the 500 millibar chart as of around 7 a.m. this morning. And the first thing I notice again is this large, broad trough that has been there for who knows how long at this point. It looks like we may have a little shortwave along this axis where my mouse is here, and then we have another shortwave kind of down in this direction. Now, let's move over here to the GFS on pivotal weather. This is a single forecast model, but it's usually pretty good at some of the large scale and long-term stuff, so we'll just use it to take a quick little glance as to how things are going to progress. That little shortwave we noticed over here, and in fact it looks like there may be another one right in there, so that does kind of line up with what we saw. But that shortwave farther back is going to move into the area kind of this evening into the nighttime. And then through the overnight and into tomorrow morning, we see an intensification of the jet streak over us, especially with the low pressure system here that is connected with all this, kind of having its own little small jet in here, and then it moves down and kind of merges, or at least the jet merges as that low pressure system kind of gets closer down to our area. Those are some pretty strong jet. And with that westerly west to east flow over the Lake Michigan, this is probably going to enhance the lake effect snow that has been going on for oh so long. And so we may have some non-lake effect snow, not much, in association with that first little shortwave. And then we're going to have some continued enhanced lake effect as that jet really intensifies. But now, let's take a look at the 850 millibar level. We can still see that shortwave back there, that one right there, pretty clearly. Now let's jump to the model so we can start to look at the future. Again, you can still see those two features. And sure enough, that one shortwave does make its way over. It's not super evident at this point, and its effects will probably be rather subtle, but it is there. And then we do also, again, as we through the day tomorrow, see an intensification of the winds a little bit at the 850 millibar level, not quite as intense as aloft, but again, that should still keep that lake effect machine churning. Now let's head down to the surface, and over the next few hours into the afternoon here, we do see a low pressure system develop at the surface, pretty much right on the border between the US and Canada on Lake Superior. And that will continue to intensify and make its way, bringing some of that colder air and a little bit more precipitation to our area this evening into the overnight. And boy, is that air going to get cold. It's not going to get super cold immediately, but especially as we head towards the later part of the period, it's going to get cold. And it does look like, just looking at the wind barbs, that we do see some enhanced flow from west to east across Lake Michigan. So again, that is pointing to some more lake effect. And then as we head into tomorrow night, into Friday morning, it is going to get really cold. Down on the negatives, more than likely. That is definitely the forecast. And then going just a bit beyond the forecast period, Friday night into Saturday morning, it is going to be much of the same, even colder, actually. And that will hang around. Friday and Saturday are going to be the worst days, but it's going to remain cold for a while. So that is one thing that we will look at next. Now let's look at a couple of ensemble models to get an idea of what our highs and lows might be. So today it looks like we can expect to get up to around 28 degrees and maybe a little bit warmer afterwards, because this does go from about now and then jumps all the way to the evening time, so maybe we see a little bit of warming. And tomorrow, maybe we get up to around 20s or so, before then Friday night into, excuse me, or not Friday night, what? Tomorrow night into Friday morning, it gets cold. -4 showing up here on the ensemble. Then as we head into Saturday night, into or Friday night into Saturday morning, gosh, it still very much the same, very cold. But that's not just the only ensemble we can look at. We can look at the European model here. Shows a high very similar, 27, 29 maybe for today. Tonight into tomorrow morning, we get down into the, 8, 15, 18. Then tomorrow night into Friday morning, it gets cold. -6, -5, -10 even as we start to head into Friday night. -15 Saturday as we head overnight into Saturday morning. Still -15 there at around 7 a.m. Saturday. Very cold temperatures. And then let's just take a look maybe at the icon here, see if there is a more recent run. Again, still looking at around 27 degrees, 27 to 29, maybe 30 degrees for today. Then low tonight, again, getting upper mid-teens, 17-ish degrees. And then it doesn't really get much any warmer through the day tomorrow. We start to head into Friday, or tomorrow night into Friday morning. It gets cold again, -5 by 7 a.m. Friday morning. And it just gets colder through the day. Then as we start to head into the Friday evening into Saturday morning, Friday evening here, -9. Oops, I just jumped ahead by accident. -9, -17, this one's even showing, actually. -20 Saturday morning. And then it does warm up a bit, but still remains negative through much of Saturday into Sunday. Now, do keep in mind that these were the mean temperatures for all of these ensemble models. So all of these ensemble models have a bunch of different member models, and these values were the average across all those models. You could also look, let's go back to, actually, let's stay on the icon here and go show the P10 and P90. So that's like the high end and the low end scenario, but with temperatures instead of snow. If we go to this point, this is Saturday morning. The low or the low end forecast, 1 in 10 chance, or excuse me, a 1 in 9, or oh my god, 9 in 10 or 90% chance that we see this temperature or colder, -13. The 1 in 10 chance, 10% chance that we get this temperature or colder is -27. So, yeah, even if the mean is only, -5, -10, even -15 in some of those, that's still extremely cold. But there is a non-zero possibility that it's colder. There's also a non-zero possibility that it's not quite that bad. It's still going to be really bad, but there's a chance that it's not quite that bad, But point is, it's going to get cold. It might not be quite as cold as forecast, or it might be worse than forecast, But the official forecast from the Weather Service, at least for Friday night into Monday morning right now, or what am I saying today? I need to I need some sense knocked into my brain. Friday night into Saturday morning is negative 12 degrees. And this is before any wind is taken into account. Do keep that in mind. Now let's take a look at some short range models for precipitation. This one is the HRRR, or the HRRR. So it does look like we have some snow associated with that first system that may come through our area. And it looks like it might be a bit of a quick hitter. It comes in, has some pretty, looks like some pretty heavy snowfall rates in there. But it's here for like a couple hours and then it's gone. And that looks like it is mainly going to be overnight, actually. This is like 10 p.m. right here when it really starts to come in. And then by 7 a.m. here, it's all pretty much cleared out. And then when we start to see that jet intensify through the day tomorrow above our heads, the lake effect starts to really kick back up and it goes pretty far inland. But this is predominantly lake effect. And again, it will affect the coastal areas a bit more than it affects us, but it will affect us. Again, dependent on how much exactly we get is going to, and whether or not we see the sun is going to be very dependent on where exactly these lake effect bands end up. But they will continue through most of the period up until we head into, tomorrow night into Friday morning. Let's take a look at another one of our short range models. It shows that current system moving out. And then that next one coming in, again with some of those heavier bands in there. Although this is still right around the same time. So, if you're traveling early morning, like 3 a.m. kind of time frame, especially here in southern portions of lower Michigan, you may have a time period where there's some really nasty heavy snow coming in, or well, the snow itself is not going to be heavy, but the snowfall rates are going to be heavier. Just comes right through, ruins your commute, and then it's gone. It's going to be one of those kind of things. And then, yep, again, we see that lake effect really pick up, although it doesn't, it shows more, not necessarily as much lake effect, but more of like some lake enhanced snowfall. And there is a subtle difference there, but it does still show some lake effect as well along the coasts. Yeah, especially in these frames. Now let's look at one more simulation here to kind of cover ourselves. This one looks a little bit similar to the HRRR from earlier. Again, it does show that. Also, all three of them show that heavier band kind of moving through towards this region around the Earth, similar times, not quite exactly the same, but similar times, early morning hours, and then moving out. And then, okay, so this one definitely looks more like lake enhanced snowfall. So it's not necessarily lake effect, but there is something else that is providing lift, and the lakes are enhancing that. And that could give us another short little burst of snow tomorrow evening. And then we really see some lake effect. Yeah, this one doesn't show as much, but it looks like we're going to have both lake effect and lake enhanced snowfall tomorrow. Look who wants to say hi. It's a Jackie cat. Nice little break from the forecast. Now we are going to pretty much do the same thing we just did with the precipitation, but with wind. Now we can't view wind gusts on here. It is kind of um, a plus product that they have. You have to pay for some of the stuff, but we can look at the regular winds. And through most of the period, they're going to be pretty light. They're going to be a little bit stronger in far southern portions of Michigan here in the next few hours, but for us, for the most part, we're looking at 10, 15 miles per hour. Then again, maybe we have a stronger core punch through a little bit to our south. Maybe we get caught on the northern fringes of that. There are some stronger gusts in there. This is in knots, but when you have lower values here, like 25, 26 knots in miles per hour, are going to be very similar values at those points. So like 24 knots there might be like 26 miles per hour, maybe closer to like 28 or something, but not too different. Either way, some stronger gusts, maybe up to 30 miles per hour in there. Whereas up here, it's a little more relaxed. And then it looks like for us, we may have some of those stronger winds in our area, 15-ish miles per hour, 15, maybe up to 20. This is kind of tomorrow morning is when that looks like it's going to be maximized, and then also through tomorrow, we're going to see some more winds just through the day in general. And then it looks like things calm down a bit, maybe closer to around 10 miles per hour, 10 to 15, as we head into the overnight. And then as we head more into Friday morning, things tend to calm down. And keep in mind, again, these are more of the sustained winds. And just checking, it looks like this model is showing more of the same thing, not quite as intense for that first blob that pushes through, although it does stretch a little bit farther north to include us. So, here we'd be looking at around 20 miles per hour or so. And that lasts for a pretty similar time frame. Again, it shows most of tomorrow being pretty windy, into Friday, or into overnight still being windy. This one shows the wind lasting a little bit longer. We're still looking at 15-ish miles per hour as we head into Friday morning. And it lasts longer so it lasts pretty much all the way into Friday night. Then it dies down. And even then, this is still, even though it looks empty, it's still around 10 miles per hour. 10 knots, 11-ish miles per hour. So, if you get some stronger gusts in there too, that's really going to add to the cold temperatures that are going to be coming in at that time. And one last look here. This one is a little more aggressive. Well, not quite. The color table is slightly different. These look like pretty similar values. Maybe, maybe a little bit more aggressive on the wind here for that first little punch. I think this model is a little more aggressive with the wind in general through the period, at least in terms of speed and strength. But it is, I would say, pretty well aligned with the previous one we just looked at in terms of timing of when the wind is going to move out, calm down, and when it's going to pick up. But other than that, yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be too much of a windy period. We could have some stronger points, especially I imagine some of those stronger points are going to have some higher gusts as well. But not too bad overall. And that is the one thing you do keep in mind. Again, those were the sustained winds. Some stronger gusts are going to occur. And especially as we head into Friday and Saturday, even though the wind itself is going to look relatively calm, any stronger gust is going to make those wind chills feel awful. Because, when you have a real temperature that's already down to like -15, even a 5 mile per hour gust is going to make that feel a whole lot worse. So, yeah, that's about all I have for today. I'm not going to bother with the cloud cover because it's just going to be much of the same. Mostly cloudy with maybe the sun shining through here or there at some points, but other than that, cloudy. So with that said, thanks for bearing with me, because if you look at the HREF here, it still only has a few hours loaded. This isn't even caught up to current right now. So it's taken a moment, not really much to look at, even if I were to switch to a different product, still. So thanks for bearing with me, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.